Montana Talks here. Live and local. This is Montana Talks with Aaron Flint.
This is where Montana talks. Montana Talks with Aaron Flint.
Oh, man, I was chatting with our friend George Blackard. Happy Freedom Friday, by the way, to all of you out there across Montana this morning. But, I was chatting with our friend George Blackard, and just some crazy stuff in the news. Now the VA, apparently, the Biden VA, is looking to expand benefits to veterans with, quote, other than honorable status. So that was one story I was chatting with our friend George Blackard about. One story that I didn't get to, though, also from the Military Times. There were 2 or 3 articles from there that I printed up in our stack of stuff here this morning. Another article that I didn't get to, though, was this one. From the Military Times, U.S.-led Gaza humanitarian aid pier comes under fire, UN officials say. Well, that's a big surprise there, isn't it? I swear, I think one of you called this. One of you predicted this, either on this show or to me via Twitter. It was probably John Jackson or one of John Jackson's buddies via X.com in a tweet. But they said this, the moment that the news came out, well, the United States is going to build a pier right on the Gaza Strip so that we can send aid into the Gaza Strip. And then where is that aid going to go? First off, it is absurd that we are sending this aid into the Gaza Strip in the first place, because what are we basically doing? We are arming the terrorists. We are giving comfort and support to the terrorists that continue to occupy the Gaza Strip. But then somebody made the great point. They said, you just watch. Even though we are building a port to allow our aid to go into the Gaza terrorists, you just watch. They will even launch terrorist attacks against our port while it's under construction. And ding, 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 here you go. Here you go. I shared this about 3 hours ago via X. Maybe we shouldn't be giving aid to terrorists. Just a thought. U.S.-led Gaza humanitarian aid pier comes under fire. Let's see. An under-construction pier for a U.S.-led project to bring aid into the Gaza Strip came under fire Wednesday, forcing UN officials to take shelter there. No militant group immediately claimed responsibility for the assault, which the Israelis described as a mortar shell attack. The attack marks a shaky start to the construction of the pier, you think? A project that the U.S. is spearheading to surge humanitarian aid into Gaza. A Hamas official, a terrorist Hamas official, I should add, told the Associated Press on Wednesday that the militant group will resist any foreign military presence involved with the port project. My goodness, that is just absolutely embarrassing. We're building a port that we shouldn't be building to send aid to the terrorists that we shouldn't be sending aid to the terrorists. And the terrorists are dictating to us the terms of who should or should not be building the port to deliver the aid to the terrorists here. What a freaking joke. We're funding both sides of this war, and the terrorists are mocking us. In official comments to the Associated Press.
Securing America.
The Pentagon is shipping arms and supplies to Ukraine after Congress's passage of $61 billion in new aid for that country. Pentagon Press Secretary Major General Patrick Ryder spoke about the issue during a briefing Thursday.
We've already started the process to move some of the weapons, ammunition, and equipment, which will be, as I mentioned earlier, there within days, if not sooner.
Some are concerned that continuing U.S. support of Ukraine will lead to an increased U.S. military presence there. But Ryder reiterates that any American advisors will continue to work out of the embassy in Kyiv.
The United States has no intent of conducting combat operations inside of Ukraine, nor are these forces going to be anywhere near the front lines.
Ryder says the bottom line is
Ukraine matters. What happens in Ukraine from a security standpoint impacts not only Ukraine, but European security and international security.
Kevin Uretsky, Fox News.
That's it. I'm doing it. I'm stepping into the Octagon Saturday night at the Brick Breeden Fieldhouse in Bozeman. But before that, hey, why don't you guys come down and see us? We're going to be at the Rockin' R Bar Friday night from 5 to 7 p.m. Saturday morning, V42 Fitness in Three Forks. Hey, we got a great lineup of events this weekend. Hope to see you there. Check out the full details. Go to MontanaTalks.com or download the Montana Talks app on your smartphone. You'll see that, plus full podcast audio.
Ranchers, pasture is important.
Serving the great state of Montana. From the peaks of the Beartooths to the banks of the Clark Fork River. Montana Talks with Aaron Flint.
That's right. Hey, if you are driving down Big Mountain from the Whitefish Resort down into Whitefish, and you're making those twisty turns. My dad would always point out Gomer Pyle's house. He'd say, "Hey, there's the Gomer Domer," as we were driving down Big Mountain. And so anyway, if you're driving down Big Mountain, if you're driving down from the Whitefish Resort right now, maybe passing the Gomer Domer. Surprise, surprise, surprise. That's right. God, who would have thought that the Hamas terrorists would attack the port that we're wasting our money on to send the Hamas terrorists aid in the Gaza Strip? Who would have ever thought such a thing might have happened? I had a message from John Jackson listening in during the break. I said, "John, you got to call into the show, man. You don't have to wait till Tuesday." He's on the phone lines. We'll get to him here in just a second. But first up, we got Clifton in Choteau, listening to KINX. Clifton, thanks for the call. What's on your mind?
Yeah, so I was listening to your portion on this pier in Gaza that they're building, and I had a experience in the Navy when we were building these. And the doctrine was that you're only allowed to be constructing these in a permissive environment, meaning that you're not going to be attacked. So that means that either they had to change the doctrine or they're not acknowledging it by putting folks in harm's way of building these. And I read an article when they first started talking about this, that they're going to build this pier and that American forces were not going to be on the ground in Gaza, but they were going to build a pier. It's not even possible. Like the amount of work that goes into making these piers operational requires camps actually on the ground for folks that are building the beachhead.
Yeah, it's interesting. So this is a U.S.-backed port construction. I'm trying to look at this article a little more. I don't think that actual U.S. military troops are there building it, but I'll have to double check on that front. But either way, I think the broader point is, they're figuring out a way to skirt our own rules to build this port to help the terrorists, and then the terrorists attack the port that's under construction to do the aid, right?
Correct. Yeah. Unless the area is secure, it's not a permissive environment. It shouldn't be done.
I do see here offshore, U.S. Navy and Army vessels have started the construction of the large pier or floating platform that will sit a couple of miles out. So we do have military personnel, at least on the outer portion, assisting with this. But that's kind of typical, right? Like, we're not using U.S. troops, but they're using our money and using somebody to do it, whether it's contractors or UN folks or whatever, right?
And there's only a select number of vessels that exist in the entire world that can actually do a roll-on, roll-off operation like that.
The Rolos, right?
Yep. And then we're the ones that own them.
Yeah. Oh man! But were you surprised when you heard this news that the pier to deliver the aid took fire?
No, I wasn't. I thought at first it was just going to be a signal from the administration that they were going to support them, but now they're actually following through with it. I think it's just asinine.
Yeah, just crazy. This is the circus that is Washington, D.C. right now under Joe Biden and John Tester. Clifton, thanks for the call. Thanks for your service. Great to hear from you. John Jackson, the Joker from Twitter himself. Surprise, surprise, surprise. You weren't surprised, huh?
Good morning, Aaron. As in all things, if you want to be first, if you want to know ahead of time what's going to happen with the news, you got to be listening to Montana Talks, because we said this on your show, I think the very day that they announced that they were going to do this ridiculous port aid thing, that it was going to be attacked by Hamas, and looky here.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, I wondered, I knew it was either you or one of our friends from Twitter or something like that called it, that said, oh, you just wait, they're going to attack this port that's delivering the aid to them. And, that was actually you. It was one Tuesday on this show. I should see if we can go back and find the audio from that, because it'd be fun to be like, oh, well, here you go. Prophecy fulfilled.
We have a very good friend of ours. You know the mob term, a friend of ours? We have a very good friend of ours that is actually over there right now and is in the intel business. And we talk to this person on a regular basis on Twitter. And this person is telling us exactly what's going on, some of the inside scoop. And what's happening right now is, for the last month or so, Israel, along with other partners out there, have offered Hamas every single thing they demand, and they still won't sign off on any kind of peace deal. You know why? They don't want peace. They never did. They never have.
Exactly. Hey, John, you know how when you're in studio with us on Tuesday, and then we go to a news break or a commercial break, and then Travis will come in the studio and make a really good point? He did that a few minutes ago, and he made a great point about this U.S.-led Gaza humanitarian aid port taking fire. He had a great point. He said, well, now we have an excuse. We can use this to our advantage. Well, sorry, guys. We tried to deliver the aid. You attacked our port. And so, we could be like Cartman from South Park and say, screw you guys, I'm going home.
Well, what I guess is, see, a lot of people don't remember the history of Bibi Netanyahu and Obama, Biden. But see, back during the Obama regime...
Hold that thought, John. You can't hear the music on the phone lines like you can when you're in the studio with us, so I got to take our quick break. John, we'll come back to you, then we'll get to Jay in Kalispell after this. Hey, we had a powerful lineup for Thursday's Montana Talks. Alex Brusewitz, who is headlining the event with Donald Trump Jr. in Missoula, he kicked off the 9 o'clock hour. Then General Michael Flynn, he's in Billings on Sunday. He joined us live as well. We snuck in some phone calls, but there were more people that wanted to jump in on the phone lines. So for Friday's Montana Talks, let's have an Open Lines Friday. Let's take your phone calls. Montana Talks statewide, 9 to 10, right here, the show where you get to talk.
Taking your calls live. 406-294-0970. Montana Talks with Aaron Flint.
All right, Jay in Kalispell, stand by. We're going to get to you next. Plus, we've got phone lines open. If you want to jump in on the conversation, 406-294-0970. Phone lines are open for the rest of the morning here on Montana Talks. Oh, did we lose Jay in I think we lost Jay in Kalispell. Okay, well, Jay, call back in if you had to run there temporarily. John Jackson, the Joker from Twitter, calling in. He was listening in as I opened up the show this morning. So, John, you were saying people don't understand the history of what's happening. They don't understand the history of Clinton and Obama and Bibi Netanyahu and more. Anyway, pick up where you left off.
Yeah, imagine you're Bibi Netanyahu. Now, see, you remember back during that ridiculous Iran deal that Obama did with Iran, where they delivered the pallets of cash, to them in the middle of the night. Well, see, during that, he spied on Benjamin Netanyahu, tapping his phones, tapping all of his people, and then, of course, financed his opposition to get him thrown out of office. And now with Biden, see, you imagine if you're Netanyahu, it's payback time, and I'm going to make sure, I see what's going on here in the United States, I'm going to make sure this thing my war with Hamas drags out all the way into the fall, and I can use it to topple Grandpa Joe. And this is my payback against these people that have been coming after me and Israel for 15 years.
Interesting. Sounds like your cell phone signal's breaking up a little bit on you there. So, John. Anyway, John, thanks for calling in. Yeah, we're losing your cell phone signal. I know you're traveling a bit this morning, but either way, hey, message received. Great to hear your phone call this morning. And yeah, you don't have to wait till Tuesdays, to call in. Just like our listeners don't have to wait to call in either. They can call in right now. 406-294-0970. Mike in Big Timber next up on the phone lines. What's going on, Mike?
Same old noise, just me and the boys getting down. Aaron, could you clarify something for me? I keep hearing these ads about this Montana Headwaters Legacy Act, and they're wanting Senator Daines to get on board. Is this coming out of Washington, D.C., or is this something here, Montana?
These are the radical left-wing environmental groups who want to limit your access and lock you out of your own so-called public lands. So if you hear these radical environmental groups telling you to call Senator Steve Daines to support this thing, do the opposite. Call Senator Steve Daines, thank him for opposing this, and urge him to continue opposing this. That's just my take, though. Everybody can make their own minds.
I just wonder why it's coming out of Washington, D.C., and then just focusing on Montana specifically. How about why don't they want clean water in Philadelphia or someplace else?
So no. The wolves are for you. They're not for Central Park. They want you to suffer under this stuff. They don't want to actually abide by it themselves.
Well, it points out to me, Aaron, that there's a constant pressure on red states. The immigration into Texas. Flip that state, and you practically have won the election. Again, this latest news about the workers in Tennessee, traditionally a red state, unionizing. All of a sudden, these people want to join unions. And again, the pressure is on, and it's on to get people away and get them back into this Democrat stronghold type of mentality. And it just bothers the heck out of me. So I'll do that. I will get in touch with Senator Daines' office and tell him to keep up the opposition. Is it going anywhere? I mean, is this act going anywhere? An act of Congress?
Well, I mean, I would never, rest on your laurels. Don't take anything for granted. I mean, Senator Steve Daines has shown that he supports conservation initiatives. So maybe they think they've got an opportunity here. And so, he's supported some stuff, several years ago where even I raised some questions about it. But by and large, he's been standing firm against nonsense like this. But I think maybe they think that they can pressure him. But again, that's all the more reason why you and all of our listeners, need to call in and back him up in his opposition to this and tell him not to fall for this radical left-wing environmental nonsense. And I think Kerry White, former Gallatin County lawmaker, Kerry White, he's been involved with Citizens for Balanced Use, fighting for public lands access for a long time now. And Kerry White has spoken up against this and articulates very well why something like this is a threat. But don't take anything for granted. And this is what the radical environmental groups do. They are highly skilled at psychological operations, influence operations, manipulating the media, and so. Yeah, so don't take it for granted.
Is it up for vote yet?
Well, everything's always up for a vote. I mean, they could attach a rider at the, Liberal Senator John Tester could attach a rider to a spending bill at the last second and put anything he wants in there, right? And
yeah, I understand. They did that on the last spending bill. What, $3.5 billion for migrant amenities. That was in there. Page 11, if you want to read it. It's on page 11.
Well, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for calling in, because I know there's other folks who probably have that same question. Because I've heard at least a couple of those radio commercials that you're talking about there on the billing station. So I imagine they're being heard elsewhere across the state as well. All right, 406-294-0970, the number for you. Next up, let's go to Richard in Billings. Richard, what's on your mind?
Well, yes, I've been thinking about how the Democrats have been setting this up for Trump for years now, when they keep saying nobody's above the law. Nobody's above the law unless you're Hillary, Hunter, or Joe. But nevertheless, why should a diplomat from China or a diplomat from Russia or Yugoslavia have diplomat immunity, but not the president? They give more immunity to diplomats than the president. It's ridiculous. It's common sense. The president would have to have immunity as well.
That is the best point I've heard make surrounding this entire case, political persecution against Donald J. Trump. Well, presidential immunity, well, if he's in his off time, if it's not an official presidential act, there is diplomatic immunity. I mean,
that's right.
Well, where in their off time, they can be breaking the law in America, and yet they're not held accountable for breaking the law in America in their off time while they're driving the streets of America. Why has nobody else made this point in a significant manner? That is a brilliant point you just...
I want you to make that point continuously until somebody picks it up.
That is such a great argument. Have you read that anywhere yet? Because, I mean, I try to read as many sources as possible, but I always...
You're the first. You're the first.
Well, no, you're the first. You get the credit on this one. No, that's a great point. Because now I'm trying to think. Somebody should go through in detail different cases of outrageous acts of diplomatic immunity on American soil where foreign diplomats were allowed to get away with A, B, C, or D. And yet, look at what they're trying to do for the first time in a nearly a quarter of a millennium of our country's existence. They are doing this against a president of the United States of America. That is a brilliant point.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for your time.
Hey,
you're doing great work.
Thank you, man. Hey, you're doing the great work here, man. Why didn't I think about that a long time ago? Why didn't somebody else make that point? That is just
the Supreme Court would make it. I wish some of them lawyers would have made that to the Supreme Court.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, because the Supreme Court was struggling with. I mean, they very clearly have problems with the special counsel going after a president of the United States. Even the liberal justices were raising questions about it. Right? They're like, well, maybe this is presidential immunity, but why would that not be presidential immunity? But again, if this was a case of diplomatic immunity, it would have been case dismissed months ago. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, no, thank you. That was a great point. I wonder if that's been said somewhere. I'm sure somebody said it, but it hasn't been amplified. It hasn't been on any of a lot of the major commentaries and discussions. So, Richard, thanks for calling in. That's, like I say, the best part of this show is your phone calls when we get a chance to hear from you. 406-294-0970. Just like Richard just showed us, is there something that needs to be said that nobody's saying? Is there a point that needs to be made that nobody has made yet? Every day on this show, we have a call. I could do all the show prep in the world. I could be listening to the radio all day long and watching the primetime TV news programs every night, and I would still miss something that you guys would bring to the table. 406-294-0970, or you can message us on our Montana Talks app. It's painful to see what our country's going through right now. But some of you, you'd like to go walk it off. Get outside. Clear your mind, right? Clear your head of all the craziness going on in the world and just go out for a nice hike or maybe get in a round of golf later today. But you can't because you got knee pain or you got shoulder pain, so you can't swing like you want to, right? Well, what if you could get on the golf course again? What if you could go for that hike and you could do it without having to get surgery and without having to use pain-killing drugs in order to get over the pain? Let me tell you about QC Kinetics. They specialize in regenerative medicine. That's where they take the healing properties that are already in your body, put them directly into those achy joints. They've got hundreds of clinics all across America. In fact, they're under the leadership of National Medical Director Dr. Mitchell Scheinkopf, who's got over 20 years of clinical work in this field. But with hundreds of clinics all across America, they're now here in Montana, and you can get a free consultation. Call QC Kinetics now for a free consultation, 406-201-6263. QC Kinetics, 406-201-6263. All right, I got to send a tweet out about this whole diplomatic immunity thing and the point that Richard just made there. That was great. Alex Brusewitz and General Michael Flynn joined us on Thursday's Montana Talks in the statewide 9 o'clock hour. If you missed it, full audio, download the Montana Talks app on your phone.
This is where Montana talks. Montana Talks with Aaron Flint.
All right, I sent out a quick tweet. I didn't have too much time to put it together, but I sent out a quick tweet via X.com. Richard and Billings just called in with a great point. Why all this debate over presidential immunity? They go easier on foreigners in America leveraging diplomatic immunity. So I sent that out via Twitter. Let's see if it gets any attention or not. But I thought it was a great point, great question anyway. 406-294-0970 is the number for you if you want to jump in on the conversation here. Do you guys remember? Well, this kind of ties in with this whole conversation about the pro-Hamas terrorists protesting on these colleges' campuses, rioting on these college campuses. I told you yesterday how Zoe Zephyr, the radical transgender lawmaker from Missoula, the Democrat lawmaker from Missoula, is sent out this tweet via X attacking law enforcement here in Montana and praising the pro-Hamas protesters and rioters. Absolutely disgusting to see this on display where the Montana Democrat Party is standing up for pro-Hamas terrorist rioters threatening and assaulting Jewish students on college campuses. Think about it. They are threatening and assaulting Jewish students on college campuses and elsewhere across America. And the Democrats are standing up for these terrorists that are terrorizing Jewish students, that are calling on them to go back to Poland, calling for terrorist groups to murder these Jewish students or other supporters of our friends in Israel. And Zoe Zephyr, the radical transgender lawmaker from Missoula, who would be thrown off of a rooftop in a heartbeat in some of these radical Islamic countries, is standing up for the radical Islamic terrorist supporters on these college campuses. So despicable. But yet they will call you fascists. They will call you fascists. And case in point here, I shared this story. You guys know our friend Jeremy Carl. Jeremy Carl's just has a brilliant mind. What a great thinker he is. He served in the Trump administration in the Department of Interior. He's a senior fellow at the Claremont Institute, but he now lives in Bozeman. And from Bozeman, Montana, he sat down with Tucker Carlson. Anyway, so I shared this via Facebook and via Twitter yesterday, facebook.com/Flint Report, x.com/Aaron Flint. And of course, you got the liberal trolls already commenting on it, right? This one liberal troll said this when I shared the Tucker Carlson Jeremy Carl interview. Is this how Putin's orders are passed along? Traitors, one and all. And then what a great response here from T.J. Smith. I think that's my fellow infantry Iraq war veteran buddy, T.J. Smith. He responded to that person. He says, tell that to the Death to America protesters on college campuses. Great job, T.J. I mean, just spot on there. These people that call you traitors, they call you fascists, and yet they're the ones that support the Death to America protesters. The protesters and the rioters that are fighting police officers that are calling for genocide of the Jews in Israel, that are threatening, assaulting, and harassing Jewish students and the minority of Jewish professors on these college campuses. What was it at Columbia? There was a Jewish professor who had his ID card revoked because he wanted to speak out against the pro-Hamas terrorist protesters. They revoked his ID card. But the dozens of liberal professors that were there with their stupid COVID masks on their face, by the way, that were there cheering on the pro-Hamas terrorists, they didn't get their ID cards revoked. Anyway, back to this Jeremy Carl deal. Jeremy Carl, he sat down with Tucker Carlson 1 year after Tucker Carlson left Fox News. Jeremy Carl was on Tucker Carlson Uncensored. You can watch the full 25-minute episode segment with Tucker Carlson and Jeremy Carl. It's on the Montana Talks website right now. The segment has already been viewed over 21 million times. Elon Musk even shared the conversation because Elon Musk felt that it was that important. So anyway, you can check it out later today or over the weekend. Go to MontanaTalks.com. I was going to play a brief clip from that conversation for you, but we got a lot of callers on the phone line. So let's jump into the phone lines here, and then maybe I'll play a little clip from Tucker and Jeremy in the 9 o'clock hour. Let's see. First up, let's go to Chuck in Manhattan. Chuck, what's going on?
Well, as much as I'd like to say that the diplomatic immunity issue is a great idea, there's a fly in the ointment. A diplomat doesn't have immunity in his own country.
Okay. But a president does.
True, and he is a diplomat. And I think that would be a great idea if you could use that argument, but because he's in his own country, it wouldn't work.
Well, I think the point that Richard is making is that we are giving a pass to foreign leaders on American soil that we won't even give to our own leaders on our own soil. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, no, I agree 100%, and I would love to be able to use that as an argument because I think it's ridiculous what they're doing. But in a courthouse, they couldn't use that argument.
All right. Well, Chuck, thanks for calling in. Good to hear from you.
You bet.
I appreciate it. Hey, Chuck, by the way, are you still there, Chuck? Might have hung up already. Yeah, he hung up already. All right. Anyway, Chuck, if you're still listening, Chuck, if you can make it in from Manhattan, I'm going to be at the Rockin' R Bar in Bozeman tonight from 5 to 7. We're going to be covering part of your tab for your food for anybody who comes and joins us at the Rockin' R from 5 to 7 tonight. That event paid for by Americans for Prosperity Montana. But if you don't want to drive into downtown Bozeman tonight, Chuck, tomorrow morning from 7 to 9 a.m., we're going to have gift cards available. Come see us at V42 Fitness in Three Forks, a great veteran-owned gym there. Come see us if you want to get up early, and maybe they'll even have some Black Rifle coffee on hand at V42 Fitness there in Three Forks tomorrow morning, and then we'll be at the Fusion Fights at the Brick Breeden Fieldhouse tomorrow night. So 3 opportunities. I hope to see you. I hope to say hi. Next up, let's go to Steve in Kalispell. Steve, what's going on?
Hey, I just was calling in about your comments on Zoe Zephyr, and I don't know if you've recognized my name, but I'm running for House District 9, and I'm a retired law enforcement officer from 30 years of experience. And one of the hypocrisies of her sort of statements is the fact as a law enforcement officer, we're required to defend the Constitution, and part of that means that we have to defend her right to say what she wants to say, or he, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But the whole point being is that to attack law enforcement is hypocritical because we really have to stand neutral on political issues, and we have to protect everybody's right to present their position. And so it is just ignorant and uninformed to take that position.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I will defend Zoe Zephyr's rights to say whatever he wants to say, but then we also get the right to counteract that stupidity and the disgusting things that are said. Yeah. So this is Steve Kelly. You're running for House District. Which House District are you running for again?
House District 9. It's Tanner Smith's old district.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Is there a competitive primary for that race?
Yes, there is.
Oh, interesting. Well, what's your kind of campaign message then for that seat?
Well, my campaign message is the very first thing, of course, everybody's talking about is going after property taxes. We need to fix the system because the base year property tax off of your home value in the current market is very unfair because who knows when they take the appraisal what the market's doing. We need to find a way to fix the property tax and find other revenue streams to make up the shortfalls in the state budget if there are any.
Yeah, I'm with you. We need to totally reform the entire property tax system. The reason, folks, I'm glad the legislature delivered on property tax relief. The Democrats almost unanimously voted against property tax relief. But now what we truly need is comprehensive reform. So we stop basing property taxes based off of the value of the homes, if you ask me.
Absolutely. Another issue I want to deal with, and even though it's a federal issue, we can deal with it at the state because a lot of states are taking this on, and that's illegal immigration. I was just reading an article on the Epoch Times this morning where even Iowa are passing laws to make it illegal to be in their state as an illegal alien.
All right. Hold that thought. Steve Kelly, I'll come back to you after the break, and then we'll get to Jeff and Polson as well.
Your morning espresso starts right here. It's the Sean Hannity Morning Minute.
The White House puts out official transcripts whenever the president speaks. And in this folks, imagine what we can do the next 4 more years. Pause. The way they write it up in the official transcript. 4 more years. Inaudible. Now, let's play that again, because it sounds very audible to me when he says pause. You decide.
Imagine what we can do next. 4 more years. Pause. 4 more years. 4 more years.
What do you call that, Linda? Propaganda, misinformation, lying, all the above?
I mean, I call it lying. I think lying really sums it up well.
The Sean Hannity Show from coast to coast later today.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. With ZipRecruiter, one click sends your job to hundreds of top job sites. But more than that, ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies the candidates with the skills you need, sends you a list of great matches to review, then actively invites them to apply for your job. And the results speak for themselves. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's right, the first day. Now you can focus on your business and let ZipRecruiter do the work finding the best people for you. See for yourself. Experience the ease, efficiency, and power of ZipRecruiter for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free.
This is the Montana Economic Minute.
Have you ever had a windfall, an inheritance from a relative you hardly knew, an unexpectedly high tax refund, or maybe, almost certainly, a stimulus check coming in for the government? The only thing that dampens the joy of extra cash is the certainty that it will not continue. Yet many of us have trouble bringing our spending back down when that reality arrives. So it may be for some crucial pieces of the economy in the coming months as the sugar high of stimulus spending fades and reality returns. Banks have enjoyed high deposits from households and businesses stashing away their extra cash. State governments had a surge in revenues and record budget surpluses. And stock markets kept going up in the low interest rate environment where that was the only place to earn a return. A return to normality will be a big change, but it's rapidly upon us. Montana's revenues are flat, stock markets are choppy, and extra cash is disappearing fast from bank vaults everywhere.
Reality is arriving. I'm Patrick Brackey. /RADIO.
Brought to you from the Montana Hot Spring Spas, the hot tub company that your friends recommend, studio. Taking your calls live, 406-294-0970. Montana Talks with Aaron Flint.
All right, I do want to get to Jeff in Polson here in just a second, but since we got cut off by the break there, Steve Kelly in Kalispell, you were saying how, look, while it's by and large a federal issue, there are things we can and should do as a state to curb this illegal immigration. I agree with you. What quickly would you share are some things we should be doing, we could be doing as a state?
Well, one of the things is give local law enforcement the authority to detain these illegal immigrants. Who has more contact with them than anybody else, and that is local law enforcement. Some of the very first arrests I ever made as a police officer were of illegal immigrants, and I was shocked when they would return within a week after being deported. And in fact, I was called by INS 6 months into my career and asked to stop putting them in for deportation. This problem has been going on way too long. Our federal government has failed to do its job, and I cannot understand how they can get away with not doing their job when everybody else is required to do theirs.
That's right. And I think the more that the states stand up, it allows us to have precedent to combat the federal government. And our state legislature has been very good about doing that on a number of levels already. But, hey, we can do more. All right, Steve, thanks for calling in. Nice surprise phone call from you. Next up, let's go to Jeff in Polson. Jeff, what's going on?
Hey, good morning, Aaron. As a counterpoint to Zoe Zephyr, yesterday I was listening to a podcast by Jordan Peterson. He was interviewing the disowned son of the Hamas co-founder, Sheikh Hassan Youssef. The son's name is Mossab Hassan Youssef. He worked with Shin Bet for a number of years, infiltrating Hamas and getting information to him. And here's what he said about it. He said, when October 7th happened, it was like an earthquake for me. That morning, the lion within me awakened. A volcano was about to erupt. I made a decision to burn this evil down to the ashes. Now, this is a man who grew up in Hamas. He's the son of a co-founder. He was disowned by him. He was humiliated a number of times. His father had no love for him. Hamas, he's absolutely explicit that Hamas is evil. He says, we need to go into Rafah now, not tomorrow. What are we waiting for? We finish Rafah, we finish Hamas.
Exactly.
So,
and he also became a Christian. This is the son of the leader of Hamas, and he became a Christian since that time as well.
Yeah, he realized that the Allah of Islam was evil. His words, not mine. His words, and he was very a-religious for a long time. But yeah, he not ingratiated, but he works with the Jewish people, and he has Jewish families now. He considers closer to him than his own family. He loves the Jewish people for what they did for him, and he will do anything to support them. And they were, I think, his introduction into Christianity and the true God of the Christian and Jewish Bibles. So.
Yeah, he'd be a neat guy to get here to Montana someday to share his story, wouldn't it be, to hear more from him? It's fascinating. But then you also think about it. There's others in the Arab world who know that, that even though they still hold to their Muslim faith, they know that they need to reject radical Islam. And that's why, the way Joe Biden and John Tester have undermined this country at every turn is it's tragic. I mean, you had Donald Trump helping to broker peace agreement after peace agreement after peace agreement between Israel and all these Arab countries. But Joe Biden was so desperate to undermine Donald Trump that he was willing to undermine America in the process. So he started undermining all these peace agreements by trashing the Saudis. And look at where it's got us. It's got us on the brink of World War III. Jeff, thanks for the call. Great to hear from you. We got phone lines open coming up in the 9 o'clock hour as well.